All right, we want to welcome you to our next presentation in our All About Alzheimer's or All About ALZ monthly series, where we strive to bring you useful information that you can take back to your respite groups or support groups, or those you might be caring for in your family or your social support system. As always, it's a pleasure to be here with you today. For those who might not know me, my name is Joan Asseff, and I am a licensed clinical social worker here in the state of Texas. And I've spent most of my career working with older adults in a wide array of settings, in skilled nursing facilities, hospice, home health, psychiatric care, and private clinical practice. And I now teach clinical social work at the Steve Hicks School of Social Work at the University of Texas at Austin. I've worked extensively with individuals and caregivers and care partners going through the extreme challenges of Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. And I just, as always, want to recognize the selflessness and painstaking work that folks do in so many ways to support those impacted by this disease. Today, I'm excited to share with you this presentation on the benefits of horticultural therapy techniques for people living with dementia. So before we get started, just a quick note about Alzheimer's Texas. As I'm sure many of you know, Alzheimer's Texas is an independent local nonprofit that used to be known as the Alzheimer's Association Capital of Texas chapter. They have been a privately funded voluntary health organization since 1982, serving Central Texans with Alzheimer's disease and their caregivers. About 3 or 4 years ago, Alzheimer's Texas broke away to form their own nonprofit and decided to focus 100% of their funds and efforts here in Central Texas. However, Alzheimer's Texas maintains the same level of commitment, providing support, education, and advocacy for those affected by Alzheimer's disease in our community. So a few learning objectives for today. We want to define and understand horticulture activities and horticultural therapy, especially in terms of supporting those living with dementia and their caregivers. We want to identify the potential benefits and limitations of horticultural therapy techniques for people living with dementia and their caregivers, and learn strategies for applying horticultural therapy techniques to positively impact the lives of people living with dementia. And as always, we want to think about and share ways, as we do in our discussion afterwards, that we can apply and educate others about these strategies. So to frame our learning for today, it's important to distinguish between horticulture activities and horticultural therapy. Horticulture in general is defined as the art or practice of garden cultivation and management. Horticulture can be incorporated into various social, vocational, and/or therapeutic activities to benefit participants in a variety of ways, which I will describe in just a few moments. Horticultural therapy, however, combines horticulture and rehabilitation disciplines to form a therapeutic approach, usually facilitated by trained horticultural therapists. Horticultural therapy is related to the fields of ecotherapy and green care. It's a process that engages clients or participants in horticulture-based activities to achieve specific and documented treatment goals. Horticultural therapy employs plants, gardening activities, and the natural environment into therapeutic and rehabilitation activities to improve human well-being. It typically involves participant interaction and engagement with plants, gardening tools, landscapes, seeds, soil, various aspects of nature in a structured activity. And I'll share some of these structured activities later in the presentation. So what is the history of horticultural therapy? Historically, the use of horticulture to calm the senses dates as far back as 2000 BC in Mesopotamia. Around 500 BC, the Persians began creating gardens to please all of the senses by combining beauty, fragrance, music, flowing water, and cooling temperatures. In the United States, the therapeutic benefits of peaceful garden environments have been understood since at least the 19th century. Dr. Benjamin Rush, considered to be the father of American psychiatry in the United States, reported that garden settings held curative benefits for people with mental health challenges. As a professor of the Institute of Medicine and Clinical Practice at the University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Rush published his book, Medical Inquiries and Observations upon Diseases of the Mind in 1812. In this book, he stated that digging in a garden, as he called it, was one of the activities that distinguished male patients who recovered from their mania from those that did not engage in garden activities. Based on these observations, the hospital grounds included landscaped paths through grassy meadows as part of their overall intervention. Gradually in the United States, agricultural and gardening activities were included in both public and private psychiatric hospitals. Subsequently, horticulture was utilized to improve the care of veterans during World War II. This led to the start of horticulture use in clinical settings, including occupational and recreational therapy within psychiatric rehabilitation. The enormous number of returning wounded veterans to the US hospitals precipitated the start of horticulture use in these clinical settings. The Rusk Institute of Rehabilitative Medicine, associated with New York University Medical Center, was the first US medical center to add a greenhouse to its rehabilitation unit in 1959 for interdisciplinary diagnostic and rehabilitative therapy. In 1972, the Menninger Foundation teamed with the horticulture department at Kansas State University to provide training for undergraduate students in the mental health field. This would lead to the first horticultural therapy curriculum in the US. And most recently, and related to our topic for today, research is showing benefits of this approach for a wide range of people living with various health and mental health challenges, including Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. So as we learn more about the use of horticulture and horticultural therapy to support people living with dementia, it's important to distinguish between therapeutic and social approaches in terms of this overall modality. Therapeutic horticultural therapy occurs in a wide range of settings, such as psychiatric hospitals, nursing facilities, assisted living facilities, and/or psychiatric or physical rehabilitation centers. Formal horticultural therapy is co-designed and facilitated by a trained therapist who works collaboratively with other members of an interdisciplinary team to develop a treatment plan to meet the specific needs of each client. Treatment goals or outcomes might include development in cognitive, psychological, social, and/or physical capacities. In contrast, much of the horticulture-based activities seen in, for example, nursing facilities and other residential settings fall into the social horticultural therapy category. While this approach or this category utilizes many of the same strategies applied by a trained therapist, the activities are more focused on leisure and enhancement of quality of life, rather than a formal treatment plan with specific goals and outcome measures. It's also more likely to be activity-based in groups rather than one-on-one, though it certainly can be one-on-one. And it's centered on creating a community that focuses on fostering self-worth and providing a support system in general. So there are some very practical benefits of horticultural therapy techniques for people living with dementia. First, it's widely accepted for most people living with dementia because it invites them to watch, touch, and become close to the natural world. So it really engages the senses and provides sensory stimulation opportunities despite memory impairment. The simple tactile nature of this approach makes it widely accessible to people across the stages of dementia, which means it's more inclusive and can be utilized with groups of people in varying stages of their disease process. It's also very versatile in terms of an activity approach. It can be incorporated into the daily activity schedules of any care setting and easily woven into the living environments of people living with dementia to improve their emotional well-being. When I worked in skilled nursing, I routinely saw residents engaged in a wide range of horticulture-based activities, including decorating pine cones, which is one of my favorites, planting seeds, and arranging flowers. When I had time, I would take the opportunity to engage with residents by helping them with these activities. And it was always so notable how joyful it was for both me and the resident to mutually engage in these activities together. These approaches are also disability appropriate. Many populations, including those with cognitive, emotional, physical, mental, and substance use challenges, can benefit from horticultural therapy techniques. These approaches are also evidence-based. Studies have shown the benefits of using horticultural therapy techniques for a wide range of groups across a wide range of health and mental health challenges. And last but not least, horticultural therapy techniques are often budget friendly, which is really important, especially if you're operating a smaller program on a limited budget. While a greenhouse or a garden certainly isn't cheap, many horticulture activities and ideas are not costly at all. Much of nature is accessible to us for free, especially in the fall and spring seasons, as we all know. All right, so in addition to the practical benefits, recent research is showing health and mental health benefits of horticultural therapy techniques for people living with Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. Broadly, recent research has shown horticultural therapy programs to be effective in increasing the engagement, mental well-being, and sense of meaningfulness and accomplishment for people living with mental health challenges. A recent systematic review, including 14 studies of horticulture therapy involving 411 people with dementia, supported the effectiveness of participatory horticultural therapy on cognitive function, agitation, positive emotion, and engagement. And other recent studies have also shown reduced apathy, inactivity, and agitation. While more research is definitely needed, there's a growing evidence base for the benefits of these approaches for people living with dementia. Additionally, recent research has also shown benefits for horticulture approaches for caregivers for those living with dementia. A recent study confirmed the effectiveness of horticulture therapy in reducing the burden of caregiving and the deterioration of quality of life for caregivers. Again, caregivers are also likely to benefit from the overall general positive impacts of horticulture activities, including the ones you see listed here. For example, a caregiver participating in horticulture activities with their loved one might also benefit from building their own self-confidence, empowerment, and sense of accomplishment by supporting plants to grow or creating a beautiful bookmark from pressed flowers. They might also experience increased physical activity by getting outside, reconnection with the outdoors, and reduced depression and anxiety. In other words, we can see a dual benefit of these approaches for both the person living with dementia and their caregivers, which makes them even more appropriate to use routinely with this population and those supporting this population. So here are some pictures capturing horticulture activities and horticultural therapy. These pictures demonstrate many of the benefits already highlighted including sensory stimulation, a sense of community, increased socialization, reconnecting with the outdoors, which we know can be very challenging within the dementia disease process or the Alzheimer's disease process. Just simply getting back outdoors and reconnecting with nature can be very empowering when maybe someone has been stuck indoors due to limited physical abilities. It also demonstrates, or these pictures show us empowerment and self-efficacy and reduced apathy through that socialization and that sensory stimulation. Another benefit shown here is the potential for intergenerational engagement. Horticulture activities can be easily enjoyed by younger family members, friends, or visitors in the community, which can increase the socialization between younger and older people, especially those living with dementia. These pictures also capture simply how fun and creative people can be when engaging in these activities, despite their level of cognitive or physical functioning. Now, I want to take a few minutes to describe some simple horticulture activities that are easily conducted with people living with dementia. This one here is very popular, one you've probably done maybe even recently in your own home. Of course, growing plants from seeds is a widely utilized activity, even in schools and recreation centers. Here are some brief instructions that go over a method for growing plants from seeds that incorporates having a small meal or snack and then using the seeds from the fruit that was eaten to plant in soil. One of the great things about this activity is that it combines the joys of having a meal together with conversation and reminiscence about healthy eating and enjoyable foods. It also cultivates self-efficacy through the participants' ability to watch their plant grow over time. And if they are able, learn more about the seeds they are using and the plants they are growing by reading articles or books provided by the facilitator. This activity can also be simplified by purchasing pre-made seed packets or starter kits, which are widely accessible for pretty affordable prices in many chain stores across the city. And my daughter loves these, and I've recently purchased quite a few, and we've been working on growing some plants ourselves. Pressing flowers is another widely enjoyed horticulture activity. This is one that I actually enjoyed doing with my own grandmother when I was a little girl, and it was such a gift that she gave me, showing me how to press flowers. Again, here are some easily followed instructions on best practices for pressing flowers, and the link you see here will take you to some more detailed instructions on the best type of paper to use and other methods for pressing the flowers besides using a book if you wanted to use some cardboard or other materials to press them. This activity is very visually pleasing and can be used to create gifts, for example, such as bookmarks, cards, or framed pictures that participants can share with their loved ones or others that they would like to give a gift to. This activity can also foster creativity and choice for the participant as they get to select the specific flowers to use and how they wish to arrange them after they are pressed. Of course, just a quick reminder, participants should be observed and assisted with using scissors or a knife to ensure safety for everyone participating. And of course, facilitators can cut the flowers as well to make the activity a little bit safer. This is another horticulture activity that I really enjoy. And this one is called Creating a Succulent Garden. I recently visited an assisted living facility in the city where my mother-in-law lives, and these gardens were all over the building. They are truly calming and visually stimulating for everyone, visitors, residents, caregivers, you name it. People really seem to enjoy stopping and taking these in. These instructions describe how participants can engage in choosing the actual container for the garden, selecting the soil, and choosing the specific plants that are visually appealing and require little maintenance, which is such a benefit of the succulent garden, right? That you don't have to maintain it too much. Again, participants have the opportunity to be creative and conduct their own research as they are able, and enjoy a sense of accomplishment when viewing their succulent garden each day. A lot of folks I saw had these right outside their door to their apartment or their condo, and so they would see it coming in and they would see it going out, and really cultivated a sense of accomplishment, and also just again visually very beautiful and calming. So I've shared just a few horticulture activities today, but there are truly hundreds of these activities to choose from, which is great news. There's always a new horticulture activity to try, so you really can't run out of them, you can't run out of options. Here is a list of some popular horticulture activities that are probably very familiar to those of you who support people living with dementia or other health or mental health challenges. I have participated in the flower arranging and observing butterflies, and a few others that you see listed here with residents and patients that I've worked with over the years. And again, it's always a very meaningful experience and has benefits for everyone that participates. These approaches can truly be calming, therapeutic, and empowering for everyone involved. So I want to end with, like any good professor, by recognizing some limitations. Like any intervention or approach, there are some limitations to horticultural therapy approaches and techniques. Many of the studies examining the impacts of horticultural therapy techniques have a small sample size, reducing the overall significance of the findings in general. Also, some positive effects, such as the positive impacts on quality of life and functional capacity, have not been seen consistently across studies. So there may be some factors that lead to these impacts in some studies, and some factors that we are not aware of yet that are causing these inconsistencies. Obviously, more research is needed to fully understand the benefits for people living with dementia and their caregivers. However, we are excited about the research showing the positive impacts for people living with dementia and their caregivers. And we're excited about future research that can tell us more about how to tailor these interventions so they can be even more impactful. So I want to thank you so much for being here today and open it up for questions at this time.